NDP say they have 10 candidates declaring an Indigenous background. A quick count shows the Liberals and PCs have 4 each. When asked to provide their party's policy on verifying Indigenous identity, the PC's response was brief. The PC party does not police anyone's identity. The NDP provided a statement saying the Manitoba NDP has a rigorous vetting process, and we are proud of our candidates. We are fair and thorough in our assessment of candidates for the NDP. And the Liberals say they don't ask people to identify themselves based on their culture or orientation, but they are required to fill out a 20-page application where making false identity claims would fall under. It reads, in part, are you aware of any other material fact not otherwise disclosed in this form that, if publicly known, could be used by your opponents against you or the Manitoba Liberal Party? The writ for the Manitoba election dropped on September the 5th, and election day is set for October the 3rd. And as you just saw, we asked the 3 main parties what their policy is for verifying Indigenous identity claimed by a prospective candidate. For more, lawyer Jean Teye is here to talk. Jean, thank you so much for taking a few minutes today to speak with us. What do you think political parties need to do to ensure these claims are valid?
Claims to Indigenous identity, I think they need to be validated, first of all. So they need to ask for proof. That's the bottom line. Accepting people on an honor system simply doesn't work anymore because we've seen that people abuse that. So they have to ask for proof. And I don't think it's good enough to say you're searching for your identity or anything like that. So I think, and the political parties need to ask for proof before they claim they've got an Indigenous candidate, and they need to make it clear to the public what their policy is on this and what their proof standard is, so that we have some light shining in on the political party's process.
So then, second to that, I suppose, why is it important for a candidate's heritage to be verified?
I just think we should be honest. Candidates should be telling the truth, and as we've seen, some candidates are not. And so since we've seen that there's a history of people pretending or claiming Indigenous heritage when they have no right to do so, I think then it makes us all have to check and double check. And political parties are the same as universities and government and employers. They should, if someone is putting this forward as a credential and claiming to be Indigenous and often claiming stolen trauma and things like this that make people feel sorry for them, or that, my goodness, look what they've overcome, and it's all a lie, then I think that we want our politicians more than anybody else to be telling us the truth. And if they're going to lie about that, then what else are they lying about? So I think it just undermines our faith in the political process. It undermines our faith in our elections. And we've seen this. We've seen it with George Santos in the United States, and the pack of lies that he bundled up to get elected. And we've seen it in Canada too. So my own personal take is that Indigenous identity, it's important that it be Indigenous people who determine who Indigenous their members are. And others, white folks, can't come along and just claim it, and we hold up our hands and say, well, there's nothing we can do about it. I don't think that's right. I think Indigenous people, we have to call them out, and I think that political parties have a responsibility to have a policy on it that checks, that demands proof, and that makes that policy very clear. So some Manitoba parties, the Liberal Party, has a very clear policy about it, but I'm not sure it's really well known out there. Conservatives don't seem to have much of anything, and I think the NDP also have one, so they all need it.
Well, so then last question here for you, Jean, then who loses when these claims are made, especially in the political realm?
Well, I think the people who elect them. So if the people in that riding elect an MLA to the Manitoba legislature, and that person is being elected, at least in part, on a false claim, then I think the electors have been duped. And I don't think that that's right. So again, I say honesty. We need to have clarity and honesty and integrity in our elections and in our elected officials. And so who loses? Indigenous people always lose on this one, because then no one believes anything that comes out anymore, and it makes the rest of us suspect. And that's really, really unfortunate part of this. But I think it just means we have to be vigilant, and we have to call people out when they're making claims that are invalid, or that they can't substantiate, or that we simply disagree with. So some candidate may be calling himself Métis. If the Manitoba Métis Federation stands up and says, no, you're not, then the rest of us should pay attention to that. Or if they claim they were Ojibwe or Saulteaux or Cree, then I think those nations should stand up and say, no, you're not. And then the rest of us should pay attention.
Well, certainly plenty to look forward to here, especially with this election. Jean, thank you so much for this. And again, we appreciate your time.
Thank you.